Hey, everybody. I want to thank you so much for coming on here tonight. I have some special guests here, if you haven't already seen them already. I had the amazing, wonderful pleasure of meeting these guys a couple years ago, and I laughed my butt off. Yeah, it was there. But here's the real deal here, you guys. My name is Sherry Denny. I'm from Alaska. I'm actually sitting here in Las Vegas in my virtual office, and I thank you again for coming here tonight. But these two gentlemen I brought on because I want to be able, I mean, who wouldn't want to be able to bring value to a team that you're trying to build, or anything that you're trying to do, bring value to that. And I have to tell you, I couldn't have thought of a better thing to do than, because I've been talking with Jim for quite some time, and he actually sent me the book the other day, last week. I picked it up and this is so cool. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but you see, this book has markers, more markers in it than any book I have ever marked in my entire life. I could have gone through with a highlighter, but then you got to, kind of look for the pages that have the highlighter in it. This one, I just go right to it. It's got everything.
That's awesome. By the way,
one of my favorite chapters. Yeah. So anyway, I want to just get right to it here, you guys. George Campbell, you see him there. He's the guy with the goatee and the snow in the background. And he's in Tucson, Arizona right now. He has 20 years speaking as a professional speaker, but you know what? It gets bigger than that. He's in the Speakers Hall of Fame, and less than 2% of speakers are in the Hall of Fame, you guys. He's appeared on 60 Minutes, and to tell the truth, that just aged me. Then we have, and there's so many more accolades, you guys. You're going to realize the power of these two as we go along here. However, Jim Packard, oh my gosh, we became really good friends, and probably because his wife's name is Sherry too. I mean, really, let's get real here. Yeah. So, but Jim, when these two came together, it was when George actually added Jim that some explosion happened there. And Jim started a business, are you guys ready for this, with $500 and built it to a $17 million business before selling it to a Fortune 500 company. He's inventor of products. He's appeared on QVC over 25 times. He's distributor of the year in 2 different MLMs. And you guys, I believe they have everything that it would take for you to listen to them. So I want to go ahead, and we're going to just get started here. That's just a brief bio of George and Jim. And I know that he has a lot of different things to say as well. Why did we have such different experiences here? Why don't you guys go ahead and start on that?
Well, I mean, it is interesting. I always kind of apologize for my bio because I think it's really deceptive. Because I've accomplished some things in my life, but they've all been as a result of one really serious sprint. And then I was able to coast for the next 17 years, probably, which is not a bad business plan as things go, but it contrasts completely with Jim. Because Jim is, and his entire life has been consistency. I mean, he's not a sprinter. He's a person that puts in their work every day. And I mean, Jim, how far back does this go for you?
Well, selling newspapers. I won a contest. Actually, they had a contest. I was living in Miami at the time. They had a contest, George, where if you finish 1, 2, or 3, you get to the World's Fair. If you finish 4 through 60, you get to go on a train to Washington, D.C. and up to New York to see the Yankees. And I wanted to see the Yankees so bad. And that's all I focused on, was seeing the Yankees. But unfortunately, I finished first. And I traded the kid that finished 4th. So I went on a trade, and he went on an airplane to the Seattle World's Fair. So I've had the ability to delay, what we call delayed gratification for quite a while. I can see the the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. So the kind of the thing that started our partnership and started the book that you were nice enough to hold up, and a lot of people, I will tell you this, a lot of people highlight Jim's passages with black marker, and they seem to think it makes the book more valuable. That's just a tip. But our partnership started about 2 years or 3 years before Jim had any idea we were starting this. I was looking for something else, the third act of my life. And I started just reading and researching, and I was like, what would I want to know? If I could go back and talk to George as a 25-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid, what would I tell him? And I started researching some things that had gotten my attention over the years, but I had never really dug deep in. And one of them was the Pareto principle, which a lot of people are going to be familiar with. It's a classic 80-20 thing. And it came because a client had called me up and said, we're a classic Pareto principle company. 80% of our sales come from 20% of our salespeople. 20% of our sales come from 80. How can you help us shift those numbers? And when the guy asked me that was like 15 years ago. I had no answer whatsoever. But then I started researching it, and because it fascinated me. How is it that people can be so completely unique, and yet we fall so easily into one of these two categories? And what I did was I eliminated all the things that we had in common, the high-performing 20%ers and the lesser-achieving 80%ers. And you can eliminate intelligence. It's equally present in both groups. Education, training is equally present in both groups. Even ambition. And what it came down to, what I decided was the key differentiating factor is consistency. And once I realized that became very significant, and that's the key differentiate. I've been successful in my speaking business, but I've tried numerous network marketing companies and have never been successful, ever. And I would see I met Jim because I saw Jim on stage at a company meeting, and I'm like, that's the guy I want to be. And I'm like, why is Jim so successful? And I struggle at this. And it really, really bothered me. I saw the dream of network marketing early on, and for some reason I couldn't get myself to take the consistent actions that would support that. And that was like the beginning of this whole search for us. And in network marketing, the 80-20 rule is really even more dramatic than 80-20. The numbers are much greater, and there's reasons for that, and we talk about it a little bit in the book where the reasons are for people that really have a challenge with this. But so the bottom line for this was I identified with the 80%. I absolutely understood the struggle that comes from knowing what it is you want to do. I want to build this business. I want to be a part of this group. I want to be on stage. I want to be recognized for doing great work. I want to be recognized for helping people. I had that whole dream within me, and I couldn't make it happen. Jim had the opposite experience, where he was on stage. He was the person, and he's trying to. I've always said if I wanted to curse someone who I really didn't like, I would let them sponsor me, because it would drive them crazy. Why is this guy who seemingly has everything it takes to be good at this, how can he suck so bad? And Jim, you went through this looking at people like me, trying to figure out what you could do to get us to move.
My son hired George to come speak at one of our meetings, and I remember going up to him afterwards, and he was doing the Joe Malarkey routine, which is the world's worst motivational speaker. And I remember going up to him and saying, George, if you ever need a straight man on stage, let me know. And of course he didn't with that routine. But we kept in touch for 10 years, and I saw him again, and he said, Jim, I've got a new program I'm putting together, and he said I could use a partner. And I go, George, why do you need me? You've got 20 years on stage. I'm not a speaker. Why do you need me? And he says, because we think differently. And I go, what do you mean we think differently? And he goes, well, he says, if there's a sales contest and it's out, it's a 60-day contest or a 90-day contest or, whatever, do you expect you can win that? And I go, well, yeah, absolutely. And he said, I can't. And I would look at people like George and go, I can't believe he's not successful. I mean, he has stage presence, he has a database, he has everything going, quick-witted, just, this is, I was going to say handsome, but that's stretching it. But, and I just chalked it up, Sherry, to the fact that, he didn't have a big enough why, or he didn't have the why that makes him cry, or he wasn't passionate about it. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And Henry Ford once said that if you have two partners that think alike, then one's not necessary. And we're not alike. And I mean, every conversation we have, I'll bring up something and he'll go, that's not how I would handle it. And I go, really? It's been so eye-opening to me as a builder that people like George, which is 80% of the people, in fact, in network marketing is probably closer to, depending on who you listen to, 97% or whatever, right? They fail. And it's just because they're wired differently, which we'll go into in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Jim and I can literally look at the same situation, see it completely differently, and yet for both of us from where we've come from, we're both right. And that's the disconnect. That's the challenge that Jim has in trying to help somebody like me. That's the challenge I have in trying to take what Jim is trying to teach me and put it in place, because the best ideas in the world, I mean, you think about network marketing, the definition of success, Eric Worre's definition of success in network marketing is getting a large group of people to do a few simple things on a relentlessly consistent basis. And we're good at two of those. We spend a lot of time recruiting. We spend a lot of time training. And then the fatal assumption is that if we get good people and we train them well, they're going to be consistent. And the results have shown us time and time, year after year, that's simply not the case. And so what we started drilling down is, why are people inconsistent? Why does someone like me have such a challenge with consistency? And there was a couple little data points that we kind of put together. And when we did it, it gave us a much better picture of this. So I'm just going to really quickly go through this. In the late 1960s, early 1970s, there was a study done called the Stanford Marshmallow Test. And they took kids, set them in a room, set a marshmallow in front of them and said, you can eat the marshmallow, but if you don't eat the marshmallow, when we come back in 15 minutes, you get a second marshmallow. So the people that are listening to this, does anybody want to guess what the percentage of kids were that ate the marshmallow?
Oh my gosh, would that be like an 80-20 thing?
Yes, 80-20. It's always 80-20. It's the most amazing thing. So it was a cute little thing that they did, and it was interesting. But then the stuff that became fascinating and really becomes fascinating in the 2000s is that they followed the kids through their lives to see what was the difference in life experiences between the kids that ate the marshmallow and the kids that didn't. And so at age 17, the kids that did not eat the marshmallow had higher SAT scores, higher GPAs, and were judged to be more socially advanced. At mid-age, the kids that did not eat the marshmallow had higher educational attainment, they earned more money, they were more professionally advanced, and according to body mass index, they were actually healthier. And then you get to 2011, and this is where it really gets interesting. They brought back these kids for one last study. They put them in a functional MRI machine, and a technician could look at the activity level in two different areas of the brain and tell you with 100% certainty whether or not that subject 50 years prior did or did not eat the marshmallow. The reason why Jim and I think differently is because we think we make decisions in different parts of our brains. Mm-hmm. Jim makes decisions in the prefrontal cortex. That's what lights up for him. This is the part of your brain that can look at an action today and project what the likely result of that action over time is going to be. This is a really great thing. It's like network marketing. Well, I call somebody today and show them and ask them to take a look at my business. Is that going to have an immediate response? No, but the long-term action is going to be what I want to achieve. That's Jim, prefrontal cortex. I'm in the ventral striatum, where my brain evaluates this on three different criteria. Is it safe? Is it easy? And is it pleasurable? It's a much different decision-making cycle. And so when I think about calling somebody, if there's a little bit of fear attached to it, is it safe? No, I can be rejected. It's not safe. It doesn't feel safe. Is it easy? Not for me. I'm naturally introverted. It's not easy for me to pick up the phone in the best of circumstances. Is it pleasurable? No, it is not. So Jim's decision is made. Jim's decision, of course, his decision is going to be different than mine. It has to be. It's made. It's the reason why Jim could just help me and help me and help me, and nothing's going to click because I'm not Jim. And the way I make decisions is completely different than Jim. And so when you look at that, then you understand why we have this dramatic divide in these groups. The good news is the same technology that revealed this difference is also a technology that shows us that we can change it, because it's a relatively new area that's been proven. We've kind of understood it for a while, but it's self-directed neuroplasticity. Our brain is not set in stone. We are a mass of neurological connections. These neurons, there's like 100 million neurons in a cubic centimeter of our brain, and we have the ability to literally rewire our brain. There is a way out for people like me. There's a way for people who are inconsistent to become consistent. And what we need a plan that is for us. I can't follow Jim. Jim and I can both get to where we want to go. There is a path for us to succeed, but Jim's path is going to look completely different than mine. I've got to use a different approach. I mean, Jim can do goal setting. He can do SMART goals. He can do all that stuff and win. And I can do the same stuff and fail. And I know that's true because I've done it time and time and time and time again. And at some point in time, after you've failed enough, you just don't play. It's just too painful. You know what the outcome's going to be.
As a leader, I came up with forms like the Daily 8 scorecard that's been actually adopted by a few different companies. And I remember when George told me that Daily 8, that's like seven too many things for me. And yeah. I would be frustrated. I would talk to people in our organization and go, just follow these 8 steps. If you follow these 8 steps, you're going to be successful. Drive me nuts why people wouldn't follow those steps if they knew they're going to be successful. And of course, George was in that group. So
I was. I bought one of the Daily 8 calendars. It was beautiful. It's this really, really nicely bound thing. And I bought 2 of them, and I have them in my bookcase. And if
I was going to say, George, I hear you still have those. You should actually put those up on eBay.
Well, yeah, I can, and they're in perfect condition because they've never been written in. That's how good. That's how good they were.
So who should be the ones that are really interested in this? I to top of my head just comes, leaders that are trying to help promote other leaders. This sounds like the perfect thing for them to be teaching their groups, correct?
Absolutely.
It's like
Absolutely.
You have a solution.
Yeah, and the other thing is that there are very few people that are pure 20%. That are every part of their life, they're just nailed down consistent. And Jim is a perfect example of this. Tell your experience with this, Jim.
You always have to bring this up.
It's good
true.
news.
It's true.
It was interesting when George and I were having the discussions that we're wired differently. And I'm going, I don't know how much out of that I believe. And then I looked at myself and I go, I've been successful with marriage. I've been married 49 years. I've had a successful business career and network marketing career. And my sons got their heads on straight. And I go, but I've never been able to, be healthy the way that I wanted to be healthy. And so you didn't have to look very far to realize for years I've been trying to accomplish or using what I call my smarter goals to accomplish my physical fitness goals. And it never was working. And it always used to drive me crazy. And that, why can I be so successful in this area, but not in this area? So we started working on using the daily gratification program that we've come up with for our consistency chain. And in fact, I was just telling George, I went to the doctor's last week and my AC1, which was 6.8, is now 6.0. I lost 23 pounds since June 16th. My doctor said, "What are you doing?" And all I'm doing is I'm walking every single day. I'm doing my consistency chain. Now, do I do it every day? No, I miss some days because of life gets in the way. But it's all of a sudden I'm seeing results where I've never seen it using my smarter goal technique.
So, I mean, and that's reflected in one person. That's Jim was trying to counsel, the consistent part of Jim was trying to counsel the inconsistent part of Jim using what worked, and it didn't work. And that's just the metaphor of when Jim tries to help me. I'm like the inconsistent part of Jim, and it's not going to work. So the challenge we have is, especially in network marketing, virtually all the great stuff is based on delayed gratification. They don't front end load the rewards. They can't. So people like me, we don't work well with delayed gratification. Is it easy? Is it comfortable? None of those things play into delay. I'm not good. So I want instant gratification. I want to eat the marshmallow. And so what we had to find was a way for people like me to put my insatiable desire for instant gratification in service of attaining the long-term goals that I want to get. And so this came down to something I read is funny to me. I did 10 years of stand-up comedy and was around a lot of the really great comics at the time. And Jerry Seinfeld was one of them. And I read an article a couple of years ago, and he was talking about, a kid came up to him, a young comic, and he said, "How do I become Jerry Seinfeld?" And he said, "Well, first of all, that's not the goal." He said, it was never my goal to become Jerry Seinfeld. He said, "My goal was to be a better comic." And this is going to be a key definition. We talk about this in the book about goals. Jerry did not shoot for the limos and the Learjets and the estates and all the Porsches. His goal was to become a better comic. And the beautiful thing about becoming a better comic is if you take action every day that puts you closer to that goal, guess what you did? You did become better that day. And so it appeases the desire that someone like me has for instant gratification. So I'm actually putting instant gratification in service of achieving long-term goals. So Jerry told this kid, well, what he did was he was going to be a better comic. He decided an activity that was going to take him further down that road. And that activity was to write jokes every single day. And so he wrote jokes the first day and he made an X on the calendar. He wrote jokes the second day, he made an X on the calendar. Third day, and this is where he really showed the genius, and that is, the third day, he did not see 2 X's on the calendar. He saw a chain of 2 links. And his goal that day and every day subsequent was, don't break the chain. The power of this is the simplicity of it. Because when I was talking earlier about we're rewiring our brains, that has to be a very specific activity. You can't have 47 different directions going to try and rewire a brain. It's got to be very, very simple, very specific. You got to know exactly what it is you're trying to do. And don't break the chain is that. And it is unbelievable. So I thought, well, I'll try this. What could it hurt? I failed at a ton of stuff. I'll try this. So I decided I was going to take an area of my life, much like Jim, I was going to take an area of my life that I'd never been consistent at. That was working out. I decided I was going to work out every day, 45 minutes to an hour every day. And I started out towards the end of September 2016. And until I got one of those killer flus, I put together a chain, an unbroken chain of 531 straight days. And I'm telling you, no one was more surprised than me. No one. Because this had been the thing that had been kicking my butt my entire life. And when I did this, I thought, oh my God, if this simple idea can help me beat the biggest challenge of my life, what is it that I can't do? I mean, the book that you held in your hands was just another chain. That was another chain that we put together. We're going to write on this book for an hour every day until it was done. Mm-hmm. And in 2 months, that chain was done because the book was done. And it just became this fascinating challenge of what do I want to take on next? And I don't track the workout chain anymore. I don't have to. And that's what I want to do, is I want to get mastery over really important parts of my life, build a habit, because that's what we're doing. I want to build that habit to where I don't have to think about that anymore. Jim meets people and talks to people all the time. He's the most amazing guy I've ever seen. He doesn't have to say, I'm going to go out and contact somebody today. It's just habit. I mean, it's just what he does. And I want to get to that point. There's only 5-6 areas of our life we really have to master. And if we can nail down those areas and the activities that we want for those areas, and one at a time, we start dealing with those, even if it takes 4 or 5 years, who cares? 4 or 5 years is going to pass anyway. If that's how long it takes for me to nail all these different areas of my life, I mean, it's the most exciting thing that we've come across. And we've had people, I mean, we're starting to get the feedback now. And Jim and I both got a card from a guy that he sent both of us a card today. And on the inside of it, he showed his February calendar. And he had gotten 12 consecutive days through the end of February. And he's excited because, I mean, for people like me, I felt like there was something wrong with me. What is wrong with me that I can't do what I see people like Jim do? I want this really bad. What is wrong with me? And to find out there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. I just have to have a little bit different path. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna move my and eventually what happens is I've moved my thinking. It's in the areas of my life that are important to me. I move the thinking out of that part of my brain that is not serving me well, and I rewire that. And now we're back in the prefrontal cortex. Well, of course we're going to work out today. It makes sense. It's the long-term benefit is such that I'd be crazy not to work out. And the next thing you know, you're in the car going to the gym. I mean, it's really, really exciting. So if anybody's looking at this and thinking that they would like to try this, is really simple. The first thing that you do is there's like I said, there's only 5 or 6 areas of your life that you really need to get a handle on. You probably have a handle on 2 or 3 of them now. The fact that you're on the call makes me think that you're probably interested in building your business. And if that's the case, if that's the direction you want to go in, I want to have a bigger business. I want to have a more profitable business. That goal or that more goal, you decide, okay, that's the direction I want to go in. Then it's just a matter of deciding on an activity that is a high value activity. The Pareto principle is fascinating in that it applies to a lot of things. And one of the things it applies to is activities. There are some activities that you'll spend 20% of your time on, but they're going to yield 80% of your results. Mm-hmm. Those are high leverage activities. Well, that's where you want to spend your time. You don't want to get really good at something that's not going to serve you as well. And in network marketing, I mean, I believe, and I'm a rookie, but Jim, I think would support me that, reaching out, contacting, inviting is the highest leverage activity there is in network marketing. So Jim tell him about the Hit Me program.
Yeah, the activity shouldn't, at least the initial activity that you picked doesn't necessarily have to stretch you, because the stretching is doing the chain on a daily basis. And one of the things, I mean, I've done it, for years, and I was telling George, all we have to do, George, is have one meaningful conversation every day with somebody that could hire us, or somebody that could put us on stage, or have a team call with. And George says, and I remember his reaction, every day, one person every day. And I go, well, life always going to get in the way. So we have a contingency plan. Reach out to 2 or talk to 1. I call it the blackjack or the 21 or whatever it might be. And just reach out to 2 people or talk to 1. I mean, at 9:00 at night, if I haven't talked to somebody, I can get on Facebook or LinkedIn and send a message to somebody and start a dialogue. And just by doing that, as leaders in building your business, I don't care who you talk to, most leaders will tell you that 80% of all their income comes from 3 or 4 groups. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine I mean, look at all the people, Sherry, that, everybody on this call is probably brought into the business and they fail. And we kind of wonder, why did they fail? Why did they fail? Well, maybe it's just because we, as leaders, it's in our DNA to be better. So that's why if a leader takes a look at this book and goes, well, maybe I just can't teach or train everybody exactly the same way. And that's what I was doing for years. I just recruit more people if, this, but that's not the answer. The answer is to retain as many people as you can and move them forward. And this system will help those leaders do that. And you can imagine what that would do to your income. So
yeah, Jim, I'm reading this book, and I told you I started at about 10 o'clock at night. It's only 100 pages, you guys, and I stayed up till 2 in the morning, and I literally got up again at 4 because I had to go through and realize some parts actually brought me to tears, and it was because I feel like I haven't done enough for my team. I feel like I put a lot of people in the, as we do, the 20%. I know you can do this. Realizing the wiring. When I got to gimme 3 days, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, the light went on. In so many parts of this book, the light went on, and I'm on a mission now. It is really to go back. I might have to do this, go back and apologize to a few of my members on my team and say, I'm so sorry. I know you have it in you, but it's the rewiring part that we need to talk about, getting this book out to somebody. By the way, I've got everybody's name that is on this Zoom right now, and I'm actually going to pick a name, and I am going to get one of these books, not this one because this one's been signed. I'm going to get one of these books out to you, but do you get where I'm coming from, right, George? Right, Jim? It's been a difficult road until I literally met you guys a couple years ago, and then getting this book, it just opened my eyes wide open again. And this is huge, you guys. Really, it's like $12.95 on. You guys can actually go to consistencychain.com and pick up one of these. It is the most unrevealing of why you may be one of those 80%ers, and you're just wondering why. Why can't I get this? That book answers it. And I was so excited. And when Jim said you guys were going to come on and do this Zoom, I was like, I can't wait for Monday.
Well, I said at the beginning that this is the book that I wanted to write when I was like 25 or 12 or whatever. I felt so much shame and disappointment with myself going through the process of failing in network marketing. And there was so much hurt and just lack of understanding. And so it took both of us to write this book. We want to speak to everybody in the room, the people that are the guys that are on stage that I love and respect and appreciate so much for building the business that people like me can have a shot at. And I want to reach out to those people that are struggling or have struggled and don't understand, feel less than themselves. And I look at the leaders Jim talked with a leader the other day, and he was like, well, we just got to get new people. This high turnover, we just got to get new people. And to me, and I understand that's certainly a business decision, but man, I just think about, biblically, we talk about being good stewards of what we have. And I'm thinking of all these people. Yes, you want to bring in new people. Yes, you always want to be growing, but I think we should be good stewards of the people that we have. And you have a chance to impact people's lives at a really important level. They may never succeed. This may not be where their path takes them, but what if you could have a hand in making them healthier? What if you could have a hand in having them have better relationships? The impact, so that if someone walked away from your business and somebody comes up to them later and says, what was your experience with that business? And they say, well, I was not financially successful, but I got to tell you, I learned some things that I came out of that a better person. And let me tell you how that affected me. So, this is a message that
needs to be heard.
Yeah.
It really does. One of the biggest dilemmas I had, Sherry, is that when you bring somebody on, you think everybody you bring on is a 20%er. Well, this guy's going to kill it, or this lady's going to be great.
Big mistake.
Right? And George and I had this conversation the other day, and I said, so what do you do? I mean, you don't know. I mean, if you look at George, you'd think he'd be a 20%er in this business. So, you know, I would suggest treating everybody as a 80%er until they prove you wrong, and get them started. So
yeah, and you're going to be right about 80% of the time too. So there's that. And the thing is, you can't hurt it. You can't hurt a 20%er by taking them through the action steps of an 80%er. They're just going to outperform the metrics. I mean, so they're going to make it very clear very quickly that.
And like I say, a good leader has in their DNA to get better and to be a better leader, and this will certainly help them do that.
So you guys have, I'm pretty sure, enlightened several people that are on here right now. And FYI, this is going up on our YouTube channel. So there's going to be even more people getting it out there. It's such valuable information. So talk about the Gimme the 3 days.
Well, the Gimme 3 days, you decide the direction that you want to go. What's the area of your life you want to work on? And then you define that direction. I want to be, for mine, I want to be healthier, stronger, fitter. That was my goal.
I want to be a business builder, better recruiter, whatever. Right?
I want to have. It's or more. I want to have more people on my team. I want to have more growth. I want to have more income. Whatever the direction you set, then you define that high value activity. What is going to, if I did this every day, then what is the likely effect of that going to be? And is it going to bring me the results I want? If it's a high value activity, then that's something that you can decide on that. And then you can kind of scale it a little bit. When Jim and I talk, Jim says, we're going to talk to one person a day. And I'm like, I don't know that I can do that. And he said, well, can you reach out to 2? And I'm like, yeah, I can reach out to 2, sure. And that, which is going to do what? It's going to lead to conversations. It's going to lead to the thing that we want to do anyway, but it's a lot less threatening to me. And it's something I know I can do. Can I reach out to 2 people today? Absolutely. I know that. That's not even a struggle. That isn't a question. I didn't like saying, okay, are you going to win the car? Are you going to win the trip? I don't know that. And I think no, but I know I can do this. It was just like working out every day. My goal was not to work out for 531 straight days. It's ridiculous. It's unreachable. There's no way I could do it. My goal was just to work out today because I have worked out once in a day. So I know I can do that. So it's believable to me. So it gets through that gate that says, I don't believe in this. And because I don't believe you're going to be able to do it, I'm not going to support you doing it. We're not going to do it.
You made something very clear right there, George. I don't mean to interrupt, but reading on this and seeing the even the Navy SEALs, the story that you put in there, and how they did that, it brought me back to thinking about my daughter qualifying just to be a firefighter in Denver, and out of 800 people, she was the only, this might bring me to tears, the only woman to graduate and become a firefighter with 23 men. And that she did the same thing. She did this consistency every single day, and I'm so empowered by her. And this was before I even knew about this, but it was just to make it to breakfast. It was just to make it to lunch. It was just to make it to dinner, and then fall down in bed and start all over again.
Yeah.
This is what empowers me to keep doing this consistency that I have. Now, I know we've got, in fact, I've got one right here. We do an accountability sheet, and it's got 22 things on it. And I'm a 20%er, and I look at that and go,
yeah.
What? Really? And to be able to, and I wouldn't do anything that I wouldn't have you guys do anything I wouldn't do myself. And to be able to narrow that down and make it a couple things to do. And you said it, George, even talking to one person a day is sometimes a life or death situation to some people.
Yep.
But make it through breakfast.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, you just break it down to something that you can believe that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't believe it, you're never going to start. And that's the other thing. Once you've decided what area you're going to be, you're going to focus on, the direction that you're going to head in, the high value activity, you've got to start. And by got to start, I mean tonight. the right now, the biggest challenge that we've seen for people is they get excited about this concept. They feel like, oh my God, this speaks to me in a way that's the other stuff hasn't really. I feel the impact of this, and I'm certainly going to do that probably tomorrow.
George, talk to Sherry and her team a little bit about the app that's coming out.
Right. We've got the app that we've been fighting. If you ever want to test, if you pray to God for patience, what he's going to give you is an app to develop, because that will develop more patience than you've ever wanted. But the app is coming out this next week, or shots will be fired. And we're serious about starting. When you download the app, when you get to the screen where you actually start taking action, there's a countdown timer, and it starts at 23:59, and you have 1 day to get started. And if you don't, then the app dies.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And you know, I went to go get the app and it wasn't available yet. And I was like, come on, you guys.
I know. It literally, I think every time I think we're there, I find out there's something else. But I think tomorrow I'm going to do the last thing for Apple, and then Apple's going to take their 2 or 3 days and say, okay, yeah, it's fine. And then it'll be up in the App Store and we'll be ready to go. But I'm praying that it'll be this week.
In the meantime, you can use a calendar.
Yeah.
I know that George would write on his an X. I don't know. I put in mine victory, the word victory, and you could go back and look at the calendar, preceding months, and you see all those victories all over the calendar. You just go, oh my God, I feel good. And all of a sudden you realize you haven't talked to somebody today, and it's 9 o'clock, and you go, I'm not going to let today be the day that, I can't put victory in that slot. So you get online and you make a couple contacts, and what happens is your competitiveness gets in. And after a while, when we talk about it in the book, momentum takes over. Right? Because, motivation is fickle. You can't rely on motivation. But when you have momentum going on, regardless if it's momentum in a company or momentum in doing an activity, all of a sudden you're not going to, you're not going to let the day go by without accomplishing it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this has been just absolutely fabulous, you guys. And I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning. I've mentioned it all over online, on Facebook. I'm actually giving away one of you guys' books tonight. And I actually put it in a box here, and I shook up all the names. And who's that? Randy Kiefer. I hope you're still on here. I was like, wow, Randy is on here. Hey, Randy, I'm unmuting you. You just got a book.
Hey, I can talk.
Yeah. So what we also want to do, Randy, I'm going to be sending you the consistency is the new currency. By the way, I like the idea that you guys put on there, forget crypto, the fortune is in the consistency. Yeah. So congratulations, Randy.
Thank you very much.
You know what? I think we should you guys got a few more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Time, and let's see if anybody has any questions. I'll unmute everybody. If you have a question, just raise your hand. As a matter of fact, let's do this. There we go.
Jim almost always has questions.
If anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask away. This is the perfect time.
Is the call formally over? Because I have my wine. I'd like to have a drink of wine.
Oh, well, here.